Atkins to the air. He's got Stoudemire for another Wranglers touchdown.
Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Team number 7 in our team preview series of the Indoor Football League. It takes us to the Northern Arizona Wranglers, and not the best season from them last year, man. They didn't do too hot. It's kind of reminiscent of their first season in the league, but sky's the limit, question mark. You know, there's definitely some people that I've talked to that are more bullish on this team than I am, probably personally. But that's the fun of this series, man, to see if we can piece together some wins, see if we can see where some people are going, hey, this team is good here, these players are good here and stuff. So we get to do that with Northern Arizona, and maybe by the end of this video I'll join them in thinking that this team can compete for the playoffs and this team can compete against the stronger competition in the West and everything along those lines. So we need to talk everything when it comes to the Northern Arizona Wranglers, from their info to their roster to their schedule, key signings and departures. We've got some questions we need to ask and answer, so let's go jump into it. Okie dokie. So let's talk about the Northern Arizona Wranglers. They are playing in Prescott Valley, Arizona, at the Findlay Toyota Center there, and they've been there their entire franchise history, and they haven't been around long, but for as long as they've been around, they still have a title to claim, which is more than quite a few teams in the league that have probably been around just as long, if not longer, which is insane to think about. Speaking of success, their head coach, when we go to the quick facts here, is Ron James, a very successful arena and indoor football coach. And maybe the indoor rules being different than the arena rules caught him by surprise, because just a no good, dirty, rotten season for them last year. But like I said earlier, sky's got to be the limit for them, and we'll talk some correlations maybe in a second. But 2-14 last year for the Wranglers, 1-13 in the Western Conference. And in the last 5 seasons, a total of 31-46. So not the best overall record in the last 5 years, a very losing record, but they still have a championship to speak of. 2025, as we mentioned, 2-14 with no playoffs, and this is where it gets kind of funky, but 9-7 2024, not enough to get you into the playoffs. 2023, they go 7-8, so below 500, like an NFC West team. They lose in the Western Conference Championship, so they were one game away from going back-to-back to the championship game, because in 2022 they went 12-4 and won the Indoor Football League National Championship game. I will not mention who they beat because I am not owned. I'm still not mad about it, but I am not owned. Do not put into the paper that I am owned. They won a championship. They just played no one. But yeah, 12-4, they did win the championship, and 1-13 in 2021. Obviously no playoffs to speak up there, but with only having one win and then the very next year going 12-4, 2-14 in 2025, playoffs, championship, one can only hope and assume, man. I mean, if you're going kind of that correlation, we'll see how it goes. Offensive stats here, though, they need to pick it up. 35.2 points per game last year, which was the lowest in the league. You got to score points, man. Simple as that. And you have to score more points than the other team. That's not to say, though, their offense was all right, man. 216, almost 217 total yards per game, with 154 passing and 64 rushing. So it's not the greatest. You can probably pump those numbers up a little bit, but this is where it gets a little bad, man. 38.6% on third downs. Not the best, and 36.4% on fourth down. So they just couldn't convert for the most part. Add into it the red zone percentage, under 75% at 72.5, so less than 3/4. So even there, you were scoring less than 3 out of the 4 times you would make it into the red zone. You wonder why this team wasn't putting up points, and it's because they just couldn't convert third and fourth downs and keep the drives going and things like that. So hopefully it changes this year, man. I mean, we'll talk roster and stuff like that too and piece together whether or not they can, but for all intents and purposes, last year just they couldn't get it going on offense, and I know roster turnover and things like that kind of caused it, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, you see those stats and you kind of just go, ugh. 2025 defensive stats, points allowed per game, 47.3, which is the second highest behind Iowa, who we've already talked about. So their offense couldn't necessarily score points. Their defense was giving up points like crazy. Total defense allowed per game, 219.4 yards. Passing yards allowed per game, 137.9, so 138. And then rushing yards allowed per game, 81.5, or roughly 82 yards. So they were giving up yards. I mean, teams were just kind of scoring on them. Teams were just kind of scoring on them. Here's the difference, though. They did take the ball away quite a bit, and there were opportunities for Northern Arizona to win some games, and some games they kind of just let slip away. For the most part, though, taking a look at opponents' third and fourth downs, 47.2%. The defense wasn't necessarily bend but don't break, but you wanted those numbers to be up just a little bit. So the defense was doing what they needed to do. They were just getting scored on, man. Fourth down, 51.6, so, roughly hit or miss, 50% roughly on fourth down. So they either converted or didn't for the most part. And then opponent red zone percentage, they were getting scored on. So once teams were able to move the ball into the red zone, 80% of the time they were getting scored on. So it sucks, man. It sucks. And you wonder why the team finished 2-14. You got to kind of switch those around. The defense has got to be a lot better. The offense has to be a lot better than that. And we'll see what we can do. Special teams, 27.8 on field goals. And again, as I've said in almost every preview, you can't necessarily fault them if you're kicking 50 or 60-yard field goals with narrow goalposts. But, glorified punt be damned. It's still a 27.8. You only made 5 field goals total in a season. And you only attempted 18, so that's roughly a little over one per game. But it kind of shows you that you weren't necessarily ever in field goal range and you didn't really trust your kicker. Extra point attempts to 71.2%, so not the best when it comes to kicking extra points and making them as well. I'm trying to remember all their kickers off the top of my head, and I cannot remember them. And I want to say that I don't know if they had a kicker that did drop kicks or not, but that could have impacted their point after attempts as well too. I know they had Connor Mangum at one point, but I don't think they had him last season. I think that was a couple seasons ago. So kind of blanking on the kickers though, but we'll keep this thing going. Kickoff return yards per game, 16. So, again, we talk about it in the Arizona preview. Arlen Bruce going over to Arizona. Arlen Bruce was really, really good for the Wranglers, returning kickoffs and being part of that special teams unit last year. And they did block 5 kicks. So, all intents and purposes, there's some things that obviously need to be corrected when it comes to Northern Arizona. Definitely some things you need to work on. We'll see if they can get it done. Top individual returners for this season, guys that played for Northern Arizona in some capacity last year that are signed on for this year. Ramon Atkins is your quarterback, which is huge. If you can return your quarterback and keep that system and that chemistry going, great. Nolan Susel at the running back spot. Wide receivers Marlon Cook and Kobe Smith. Offensive lineman Ryan Atkins and Junior Tuatasi. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that name again. Defensive lineman Karan Bolden, linebacker Chavaris Farrell, and defensive backs Devaya Gabor and Kieran Page. Representing the Northern Arizona Wranglers, head coach Ron James, quarterback Ramon Atkins, and defensive back Kieran Page to round it out. And that's what we have right now from last season to this season when it comes to the Northern Arizona Wranglers, and a nice little snapshot. Let's go take a look at their roster that we have compiled, key signings and departures, the schedule, 3 questions, we get out of here. Okay, let's take a look at the Northern Arizona Wrangler roster, starting at the quarterback position. Ramon Atkins is signed on for another season, and for all intents and purposes, most likely slotted to be your starter, with Jaron Myers being the backup quarterback to him. And looking at the quarterback position more in depth here, 6'3", 230 pounds is just kind of your prototypical quarterback in any indoor, outdoor, anything. I mean, it's a really, really nice size for your quarterback. And if you've watched the indoor football league in any capacity that Ramon Atkins has been in, we know that he's a pretty good dual threat style quarterback. He can take off and run when he needs to, able to improvise, able to sling it around. So it's really nice to see him back under the helm. And if we can get year 2 with Coach James's system, we'll see how it kind of goes. But I do like the re-signing that they have with Ramon Atkins. Nolan Susel is re-signed for another year, and then Benjamin Omeyabu. Correct me how it goes, man, but Benjamin Omeyabu, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, and Jalen Starks round it out. Jalen Starks out of Chadron State, representing Nebraska out there, man. Nolan Susel out of Black Hill State. Just get all the D2 guys in the RMAC. But anyway, Nolan Susel signed on for another year. I'm going to presume that he is your starter. Jalen Starks at 6'1", 240 pounds. It's kind of a bowling ball when you look at that too. Omeyabu might be more of your runner, your speedster when it comes to that 193, 5'10". We'll see how it goes, but I do also like the signing of Nolan Susel. Now, I wasn't necessarily keen on him, and I'll be honest, I can't even remember Marvin Kinsey. That's who it was. I think him and Kinsey were in a battle. Susel ended up winning it. And I thought Kinsey didn't get a fair shake, but I'll shut up with that because while that might still be the case for me personally, Susel shut up the doubters. He was really good, all things considered, last year when he had the opportunities to break free. Wide receivers, Kobe Smith, Marlon Cook Jr., Israel Watson, Jordan Jakes, Kylan Herrera, Stephen Lewis, and Warren Newman III. Now, Kobe Smith and Marlon Cook are re-signed for another season, and then at the very bottom, Warren Newman, he did play with Quad City a couple of seasons ago, so he does have some experience with that, but having two guys, and like I mentioned a tad bit earlier, having that chemistry with your running backs and your wide receivers, this is all kind of culminating when it comes to that. I like the offense that Northern Arizona is putting together, the guys that they have re-signed. It's guys that all played together last season within the scope of, hey, let's build this chemistry, let's build these skill positions, let's build this offensive line, let's do this, let's do that. I actually kind of enjoy when you're able to bring back multiple guys when it comes to this. Sometimes it works depending on your coaching staff and the players and the development and stuff like that. Sometimes it doesn't. You rely on rookies for some teams, you rely on veterans. I kind of like what Northern Arizona has right now with a mixture of rookies and veterans. But taking a deeper dive into the wide receiving room, Jordan Jakes, 6'6", 218 pounds, and some really nice height, obviously, with him. And hey, we mentioned this in the Jacksonville preview, but there's that Valdosta State team again rearing its ugly head. You see them quite a bit in the indoor football league, man. So Titletown taking over the indoor football league. Kobe Smith and Marlon Cook, nothing to shake a stick at either. 6'2", 180, and 6'2", 215. Israel Watson, the same size, 6'2", 215. And I mean, even on the shorter end of the scale, Warren Newman, 5'10", 150. So not the biggest guy, but he is a speedster. Over to the offensive line right now, Junior Atuatasi and Ryan Atkins are signed on for another year. Add into that Bryce Ramsey, Chinonso Opara, Isame Fasciane, Robert Malcolm, and Stacy Wilkins II. Now, Fasciane is a curious case because he has been with Tucson. I think he was with Arizona at one point, and he might have been with one other team, I'm not mistaken. But I know for a fact he completes the trifecta because he's been with Tucson, he's been with Arizona, now he goes to Northern Arizona, so there he goes. He is a veteran of the game, so if he does get that final anchor spot on the offensive line, we'll see how it goes. But battling with him is going to be Bryce Ramsey, 6'1", 315, which pretty good size, but Chinonso Opara, 6'8", 310 at the very bottom there too. Stacy Wilkins, 6'7", 320, and you can't argue that Northern Arizona doesn't have size here. Even Fasciane, 6'4", 330. Robert Malcolm, 6'3", 315. Every single guy is 6'3", except Bryce Ramsey, and over 300 pounds. In fact, over 310 pounds. Now, stats can be lying. Who knows? People lie about their height and weight all the time. But if we're taking this at face value, that's very, very, very convincing to me. So, like I said, I like what the offense has been put together. You've got veterans in every single position, mentorship, leadership, whatever it could be. So if Ron James really has this getting and going, I think the offense should be a lot better than what they had last year. Taking a look at the defensive side of the ball, Karan Bolden is re-signed on for another year, and then with that, Devery Smith, Jarius Gordon, Joshua Booker Brown, Malik Ritchie, Ryan Johnson, and Zachary Vincetti. They rounded out on the defensive line, and this is where my concern comes in. The size is there. With only one guy being over 300 pounds, how many guys are you going to have be edge rushers, and who is your nose tackle? If Gordon is slotted in at that nose tackle at 305, or even Devery Smith at 290, how many of these guys are going to be more of your edge rushers? Is it going to be the guys like Malik Ritchie at 245, or Karan Bolden at 255, Joshua Booker Brown at 250? We do have size on the edges, though, and I do enjoy that, because if they can get their hands up and block the passes or bat them down or anything, you got plenty of guys 6'3" or 6'4". So I do enjoy that. We'll kind of see how it goes, though, because I think the defensive line position is open for business for the Wranglers. Karan Bolden might have a spot shown up, but even that, we don't know. So I do have some question marks on that defensive line, just because it's untested talent at this point. But we'll see how it goes. And like I said, a couple of games in, you start getting that rhythm. Maybe it's something that you do find those diamonds in the rough. Linebackers, Traveris Farrell is signed on for another season, and DeMarcus Harris Sr. is brought in. Now, Farrell has been with, I think he has completed the trifecta too. Has he been with Tucson? I think he has been with Tucson. I think he's completed the trifecta too, hasn't he? All right, I'll have to do a deep dive later, but I think that's correct too, because I know he's been with Arizona at one point. Anyway, he is signed on for another year. DeMarcus Harris Sr. is signed on as well. I do enjoy, again, that veteran leadership to maybe that rookie leadership and going back and forth with that. So if Traveris Farrell is slotted as the starter, Harris can bring kind of that rookie hunger with that, and you do have a nice 1-2 punch there at linebacker. Into the secondary we go. Devia Gabor, Kieran Page signed on for another year, and with that, Brendan Looper, Daiwan Griffin, Jai Nin Liddell, Neville Smith Sr., I'm going to speak slowly now, Quentin Hunter Colvin, and Sherrod Page. Now, I think Sherrod Page has been on a roster. I can't remember what roster he's been on. It might have been Quad City, but I cannot remember. But I believe he's been in the Indoor Football League at one point in time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I swear I remember that name. It sounds really familiar. But yeah, Kieran Page, Devia Gabor have been brought back, excuse me. So we do have two positions that need to be filled. That's a lot of size. That's a lot of size. You know, Kieran Page himself, 6'5", but Liddell Smith Jr., 6'3", both 215 pounds respectively. Hunter Colvin, 6'2", 195. Page, 6'2", 200. So it's like they went completely with size. I don't know what any of these guys are in terms of speed, but they went completely with size. And you see some of those guys there. I haven't really talked nearly as much about the colleges as I have other teams, but you look at some of those colleges, a lot of FCS colleges here, a lot of D1 talent, Old Dominion, FBS, Rhode Island, FCS, Duquesne, FCS, and it goes kind of throughout the rest of the roster. And with that, you also get a lot of D2 talent too, with New Mexico Highlands, Kentucky State, and Delta State, and you see that again through the roster too, with D1, D2, a lot of FCS, a lot of D2 talent and things along those lines. So it's incredible to think that they've built the roster the way that they have, but I do see a lot of size here. Can it relay to talent? Remains to be seen, but again, like I said previously, 2-14 kind of sucks, and I think with what they're doing, I think they're going to be better than 2-14. Rounding it out at the kicker spot, Nestor Higuera, however it's pronounced. I do not have a Spanish inflection, so that's the best you're going to get. 5'5", 275 out of Arizona Christian. I believe he's the kicker from the Washington Wolfpack when I looked him up. So if you want to go look up that highlight. But yeah, he is signed on for this season, going local with it with Arizona Christian. So we'll see how well he does at the kicker position with, what I just spoke about with them not being able to nail many field goals and extra points and stuff like that. It's going to be on his shoulders and leg to make those kicks and get the ball down the field. So with that, we have our roster. There is no injury call-up or other list. They do not have anything like that. But we have that roster. We need to talk some key signings, some key departures, and what else? The schedule. We've got the schedule and the questions. I should know this by now, but still stupid in my brain. But let's go take a look at everything else. I'll wrap it all up and get out of here. All right. Key signings, key departures for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Offensively, I'm going to go with Ramon Atkins. It all goes through him. You have another season. And, I mean, he didn't play the entire season. They had some quarterback woes. They had some quarterback issues. And then they bring in Atkins. And for all intents and purposes, he played really well. He was 2022's Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2022 all-rookie team when he was with Duke City, I believe, when Nate Davis went down with his injury. He won 154 of 255 last year, 1,539 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions with 56 rushing attempts, 270 rushing yards, and 11 rushing touchdowns. So not necessarily a full, true dual threat guy, but he is able to take off and scramble and improvise when needed. He did throw the ball pretty well for all intents and purposes, and a nice 25-7 touchdown to interception ratio. We'll see if he goes all 16 games. Again, I do not wish for injuries or anything like that, but it is kind of the nature of the beast, man. So if he is able to stay healthy, is he able to lead this team to the promised land and at least back to the playoffs or a respectable record, roughly to 500? We'll see how it goes. Defensive back Kieran Page is signed on for another season. No awards or accolades to speak of, but 65.5 total tackles, 1.5 for a loss, 5 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups. You kind of need that stalwart in the secondary, and I think Page is going to be part of that. Part of that too, and we talk about the key departure here in a second, but we need to see what's going to happen defensively in the front and what the linebacker position can produce, because I think the secondary is going to be all right. It's, can we get enough pressure on the quarterback? That's going to be the question, because otherwise you're going to have the defensive backs being tackle machines because they can't get enough pressure on the quarterback, as they're either going to be running past him to the second level or they're going to be throwing it all over the place, where the defensive backs have to make the tackles and force the pass breakups and force the interceptions and do things like that. So bringing Kieran Page back is going to be nice. Plus his size, what was he, 6'5", what I just talked about? So dude's going to be balling out. So what he was able to produce here, hopefully a lot of good things for 2026 as well. Going to the key departures here, I could have put a couple of guys. I put Deshaun Stoudemire here, mainly because we already talked about Arlen Bruce in the Vegas right there. We talked about Arlen Bruce in the Arizona preview and the special teams and everything that he's able to contribute and what he's taking his talents over there to Phoenix, Glendale, whatever you want to say. But I'm putting Deshaun Stoudemire here. He is the 2025 second team all indoors. So last year he did earn a second team all honors with Northern Arizona. He is now with the Vegas Nighthawks. 73 receptions, 839 receiving yards, 11 receiving touchdowns. So a really, really good stat line there. He did rush the ball a couple of times, 9 attempts, 31 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. But out of those 11 touchdowns, the voice you heard at the very beginning of the video, that was part of a 4-touchdown performance against Tucson in one of their 2 wins. So the dude was able to ball out quite a few times, and it's a shame that they can't bring him back and he's over to Vegas, and then you lose Arlen Bruce going over to Arizona. But you do bring back Kobe Smith, you do bring back Marlon Cook. So is it all for naught? We'll find out. But losing Stoudemire and Bruce definitely hurts this team. But I think losing Stoudemire is going to hurt just a little bit more. Arlen Bruce, you'll get hurt returning kicks. I'm not saying that he didn't contribute or wasn't a factor, but Deshaun Stoudemire was a really, really big deep threat. And you look at those, almost 1,000 yards receiving, 73 receptions. Like, the dude was so good. Defensively, I'm putting Mason Newton here, and I just touched on it a second ago with pass rush and stuff like that. These numbers don't necessarily jump off the page. 27 total tackles, 10.5 for a loss, so that's pretty big. So when he was tackling, almost half of his tackles were for a loss. 3.5 for a sack, 1 interception, 1 pass breakup, 1 fumble recovery, and 2 blocked kicks. And I can't remember if he had a pick 6 or if he got close to it with that interception. He might have, but I remember Big Boy rumbling. It might have been his fumble recovery too, but I remember Big Boy was rumbling on one of those turnovers. So it's kind of what I touched on. You lose a key defensive lineman. Are you going to have enough of a pass rush? That's my thing. Sorry, I keep getting the hiccups here. But are you going to have enough of a pass rush to pressure the quarterback? Otherwise, like I said, Kieran Page might get all indoor honors with the amount of tackles and stuff that he has to do. I think losing Mason Newton, he has been a veteran of the game. He was with Duke City at one point. He's been with Northern Arizona. He might have been with one other team, but I know those 2 teams for a fact. So he's been pretty good, all things considered, man. He might not have the accolades to show it, but I don't want to say what he makes up for his character or anything like that, but he's been very, very serviceable over the last couple of seasons, all things considered. And I like his game. He's very tenacious. I like it. And to lose him, it really sucks, man. So can that defense, foreshadowing, but can that defense, losing the players that they have, get enough of a pass rush? We'll see how it goes, but losing Mason Newton really sucks. So I think losing Sean Stoudemire sucks worse, but that's a topic for another day, man. But we need to go talk a schedule, and then we'll talk 3 questions, hint, hint, and get on out of here with that. All right, schedule popping up here for the Wranglers, and just a quick look at this schedule. It's insane to think of the amount of home games that this team has on Sundays, and the fact that the first half of the schedule is roughly on Saturdays, and then the second half is exclusively Sundays. So it's weird. I don't know what kind of flex they were able to do that, or if no one wanted Sunday games, so Northern Arizona was like, screw it, we'll do it. But that's where we see here is just a lot of Sunday games in that back half of the schedule. But speaking of the front half of that schedule, we kick off on a Monday, which there's not a lot of Monday games. In the last couple of seasons, the Indoor Football League really wanted it to be showcasing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mondays, even Thursday games, even to have one, so everyone would tune into that one game, 2 games, whatever it would be. We don't have a lot of those this season. A lot on Saturdays, a lot on Sundays with their staggered starts and what have you. But Monday, on the 23rd of March, you have Northern Arizona at San Diego. 9 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on a Western Conference clash, and then a very short week, not even 6 days, 5 days, you are back at home, 9 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. You are taking on the Jacksonville Sharks. So a short week extends into almost 2 weeks because you have a bye week in between, but Northern Arizona then travels back on the road, 6 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on April 11th to take on the New Mexico Chupacabras. And then you have over a week after that, 4 p.m. kickoff Eastern Time at home. You take on the Arizona Wranglers on the 19th of April. A little bit of a short week, less than 6 days. There you have it. 5 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the 25th of April. You are on the road again, so you're kind of alternating here in the first 5 games or so. Northern Arizona travels to San Antonio, and then there's a bye week. And then they're back home and home against San Antonio. This time they cap it off with a home game at 9 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, May 9th, for that Western Conference clash. And then you go into your Eastern Conference opponent, which, quick look here, I think Iowa is their only Eastern Conference. Oh, they had Jacksonville, excuse me. So their second Eastern Conference opponent. But Iowa, May 17th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. And then short week, quote unquote, 10 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, the 23rd of May, San Diego on the road again. So they do play the Strike Force 3 times this season, 2 road games, and then they cap it off with a home game, which we'll talk about here in 1 second. After that road game, though, the second road game, it is a week later, 10 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on May 30th. You are at the Arizona Rattlers as you cap off your home-and-home series against them. First game of the season against Vegas, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the 7th of June. And then a week after that, you finally round out your 3-game series, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, San Diego at home on the 14th of June. A week after that, and it's all just going to be a week after this, roughly, 4 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, your 3-game series against the New Mexico Chupacabras. The 21st of June, it is back-to-back road games with the Chupacabras before, obviously, you head back home for that final one. Tucson, on the 28th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff. You take on the Sugar Skulls not yet again. I thought that was the second time. My bad. So anyway, the first time, which is insane because this is very late in the season that you're meeting someone for the first time. So the 28th of June, you meet Tucson for the first time. Then you have a bye week. You take on New Mexico to round out your 3-game series, 4 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on July 12th. You cap off your Tucson Sugar Skulls. They meet just a couple of times in 3-4 weeks. 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on the 19th of July. And then a short week, quote unquote, 9 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff at the Vegas Nighthawks to round that out, to round out your season. And that's what we have for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. It's not a bad season, or not a bad schedule per se when it comes to bye weeks and spacing that stuff out, but a lot of games on Sunday. It makes you wonder, prime time attendance, stuff like that. We know that Northern Arizona has one of the smaller arenas when it comes to capacity in the Indoor Football League. So if you're going to still be able to pack that out, kudos to them for getting fans out on Sundays, especially on Sunday nights, because I know that can be very tough. But we'll see how that kind of goes, man. They got a lot of games on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evenings. We'll see how it kind of goes. But what we do have to talk about with that too is they do end on back-to-back road games. Quite a few home games right before that too. 4 of those 5 being at home on those Sundays in the back half of the schedule, and then they round it out with 2 road games. So you do have that ability to finish strong if you're Northern Arizona. If you do start rattling off some wins there, either in the beginning or the middle of the season, you get to have 4 home games in 5 weeks or 6 weeks, because there's a bye week in there. There's an opportunity for you to rattle off even more wins, or if you need to get into a playoff push, there's a huge opportunity for you to do that as well. And again, we talked New Mexico. New Mexico can pull those upsets. Northern Arizona can pull those upsets. So there's an opportunity. I think Tucson could be right for the pick in there too, man. We talk about them in their preview. You see New Mexico and Tucson, not back-to-back weeks, but, back-to-back weeks within back-to-back weeks. If you get what I'm saying, New Mexico, Tucson by a week, New Mexico, Tucson. So you have a possibility of maybe going 4-0 if you can sweep those. See how it goes. But won't ramble on even further. That's what we have it for Northern Arizona's schedule. Let's go take a look at 3 questions, and then we get out of here. All right. We have 3 questions to talk about, and I will reiterate this every preview, but these are just a couple open-ended questions that I've thought about throughout from the offseason, since the end of the championship game, to players getting signed, to where we're at right now. Just some open-ended questions, kind of some stuff that thinking out loud, things along those lines. Feel free to answer them yourself in the comments if you choose to. If you don't feel like it, that's fine too. But overall, just some things where I kind of have some concerns when it comes to how the season's going to kind of go and what we can piece together for the Northern Arizona Wranglers or any of the 14 teams as we do this segment. So, question number 1. Can another year in the system benefit the players? Now, as we've mentioned throughout the preview, not a good season last year for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Times for myself wondering if Ron James is in over his head, but he has been signed on for another season. And that's not a knock at him or his coaching pedigree or anything like that, but it's more or less of like, did you try and bring the arena style over? And we've seen it. I don't believe he did. I think he has tried to acclimate himself as much as he can to the indoor style of the game. If people don't realize, the arena style with the nets is completely different than the indoor style without the nets. There's completely different rule sets and stuff like that when it comes to offense and defensive sets and stuff like that. So, I won't get into the topics or details and stuff like that because I can go on a tangent. But it made me wonder at times, like, is this worth it in a sense? But I think Ron James has done a very, very good job. Don't know the guy personally, and all things considered, he still had the players playing hard. I don't think the players really quit on him, and even though there were only 2 wins to speak of, players played hard, and there were some games that they did kind of let slip away from them. So all intents and purposes, another year in his system. They've brought back a key player or players at every single position in the roster except kicker, and I think that's going to benefit them because they were in the system last year. They saw how it worked, they saw how it didn't work, and I think being able to use that, and Coach James and company are going to be able to mold that. They've got some signings in the coaching department as well that I think are going to benefit this team too. So is another year in the system going to be able to benefit the players? I think so. Like I said, I don't think it's necessarily rock bottom. I don't see them winning just 2 games this year. They're going to increase their win total. By how much though, I'm not sure. And I think that's the thing where, like I said in the very beginning of the preview, I think a lot of people that I've talked to are kind of bullish on Northern Arizona to get back into the thick of it. I'm not necessarily sold, but I do think that they can make some noise too. So, can they benefit? I think so. I do. Question number 2. Who breaks out on offense? Now, we talked in the departures that Deshaun Stoudemire and Arlen Bruce are gone. Nolan Susel did kind of come on a little bit there throughout the season, but from what I've gathered from the stats before they wiped the page, Nolan Susel played in 11 games and only netted 189 yards rushing. That could be completely wrong, but those are the stats that I have. Ramon Atkins was your leading rusher with 270 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. So you're going to rely on someone to run the ball. Is Suso going to be the guy? You hope so. Or if it's going to be any of the other rookies or anything like that. Players returning from last season, Kobe Smith had 478 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns, and Marlon Cook with just 158 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Now, Cook only played 7 games, but Kobe Smith played in 14. You're going to need someone to break out. Like I said, offense sputtered mightily at times last season. So who is going to be the guy? Is it going to be one of the guys that signed on from last year to this year? Or are we going to see a crop of rookies that are going to be developed and be able to be that guy that's going to be able to carry this team offensively? Remains to be seen. But for the guys that got, guys that come back for another year, there's a little bit left to be desired. And if any of those guys are going to be able to bust out, I'm hoping it's Smith and Cook. That way that the passing game can get going, take some pressure off of Nolan Suso, and that way him and Atkins can run the ball and be a true RPO kind of run threat option, and Ramon Atkins can also sling the ball around. So we'll see how it kind of goes. Final one. How does Northern Arizona get to the quarterback for 2026? And I heavily foreshadow this. I am curious to see how it goes. Players returning. Half a sack. That's it. Karan Bolden had half a sack. None of the other guys had a sack. Everything you've lost in the offseason, players going elsewhere, retiring, traded, do what have you. You have half a sack. Tackles for loss, just a quick peek over here at my stat sheet, you have 11.5. So that's less than a tackle for loss a game. How do you get to the quarterback? I don't know. And again, 10 of those tackles for losses are Travaris Farrell and Karan Bolden, looking at it right here. So you're going to have to rely on that defensive line. They need to get after it. We've looked at their size. We've looked at their speed. Well, their talent, at least. We don't really know what their speed and stuff looks like. The coaches and, film grinders and all of that probably know better than I do. But how do you get to the quarterback? In a Western Conference that boasts Jerome Johnson, who has escapability, Jaden Delora, who has escapability, Max Myler, who is a dual threat quarterback, whoever's going to start for San Antonio. Nate Davis is a statue, but he can throw it in 1.2 seconds faster than a Lamborghini can go 60 miles an hour, man. I mean, how do you get to the quarterback? I don't know. And I know I left another team out of there, Tucson, which we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So how do you get to it, man? I am curious to see how it's going to work. And that's the thing that kind of gets me when it comes to my cautiousness for this team, to pump the brakes of the offense. The offense can probably score some more points with the system. Can the defense get it going? And that's the thing that kind of worries me a little bit. The secondary might have to be tackle machines for a couple of weeks. You might drop a couple of games. I'm not entirely sure. But I think as the season progresses, and I've said this with other teams because it is true, teams take a minute to click. You have rookies. You have guys that need time to gel. You need guys that need to build chemistry together. I think this is a case for Northern Arizona too. And like I said earlier, I like how they've built their roster with a nice little mix of rookies and veterans, because if you can get those veterans to mentor those rookies and have them get on quicker, there is a possibility that this defense can click. Now, it's not going to be all on Karan Bolden's shoulders on the defensive line, but you're going to need someone there to mentor those guys. Excuse me. And you're going to be able to make it work, man. So I do have that question when it comes to that defensive line of who gets to the quarterback. It's going to have to be one of these rookies. And like we said, there's some of those guys that 250 pounds, 6'4", 6'3". If they can get their hands up, if they can bat down some passes, they might not be getting to the quarterback. Stats aren't everything, but they are breaking up the passes. They are getting off the field on 3rd and 4th downs. They don't necessarily have to be game wreckers, but they have to be serviceable enough to at least put the pressure on the quarterback. I don't think they keep stats on here for pressures to the quarterback or quarterback hit. Well, actually, yeah, there's quarterback hits, but you don't really have anything when it comes to how many times did you pressure the guy in order to make his timing off, in order for the defensive back to intercept the pass or the linebacker to intercept the pass or bat it down or whatever. Can you get those guys to do it? So there we have it for our 3 questions. Can another year in the system benefit the players? Who breaks out on offense? And how does Northern Arizona get to the quarterback for 2026? So with that, let's wrap everything up. Let's get out of here. All right, so wrapping everything up and getting out of here. Northern Arizona might seem like a work in progress, but if that progress can speed itself up a little bit, as I've mentioned before, I think that there are 3 teams locked into the West. I hate to spoil it, but whatever. I think there's 3 teams locked into the West, and you've got the other 4 teams vying for that final playoff spot. Northern Arizona can easily be one of those teams. You do kind of have a 4-team race with it. We'll see what happens, because I think there are opportunities for, like I said in the New Mexico preview, New Mexico could beat Northern Arizona or vice versa. We do not know. There are questions with Tucson that I want to ask when we get to their preview, and obviously there are questions that I want to ask too with San Antonio with theirs when we get to their preview. So I think that final playoff spot in the West is easily up for grabs. Looking more at Northern Arizona, I think they are one of the better teams to snatch that. But I am worried a little bit about the experience and lack of experience. We'll see how it goes. With all of that considered, though, I wouldn't put it past Northern Arizona to maybe win a couple of games that they probably have no business winning. You know, they had a lot of rotten luck last year. If there's an opportunity for like karma to come around, maybe they win some games this year that they literally have no business being in, and that's the thing that can propel them into that final playoff spot. Or maybe they shock the world and go, 3 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed. We don't know. I'm not going to say that, but stranger things have happened. I think Northern Arizona is in a good spot. Like I said, they've brought back their head coach, so there's some continuity there. They've brought in a lot of good coaches along with him that I think can benefit Northern Arizona really, really well. And you bring back the players that, like we answered in one of those questions, if they fit the system, they're good to go offensively, defensively. We'll see how it kind of all renders itself out. I think Northern Arizona's put themselves in as good a chance as any to make a run at that final playoff spot. Can they act on that opportunity? That's another question. That's a question for another day, because we're only allowed to ask 3 questions in my segment. So that's where we have it, guys. Taking off here. I love and appreciate you so much. We are halfway through our team previews, so that is crazy. But we have the Orlando Pirates up next, not the Massachusetts Pirates, and I know I will probably slip up in the preview and call them Massachusetts at least once, but we do have the Orlando Pirates on deck for their preview, and we just keep going, man. Halfway done with this. It's been a fun grind, a grind nonetheless, but a very fun one, and we just keep going. But again, I love you guys. If you want to like, comment, share, subscribe, keep doing it. Keep liking, keep commenting, keep watching the videos. It truly means a lot to me that you guys are taking the time out even to watch 5 minutes of it. So kudos to you guys for taking the time to do it. We still have half the league to cover, so if your favorite team hasn't been covered, it's going. It'll be there in a couple of days, a week at most. If you were a Vegas fan, sorry to make you guys wait so much with so close to the season, but on the flip side, Vegas will at least know who their roster is by that time probably. So anyway, I won't extend it any further, man. I'm going to take off here, guys. Love you. Like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. No one cares. But with that, I will see you guys tomorrow night. We talk about the Orlando Pirates. Till then, see ya.